Welcome back to the AI-Driven Marketer. My name is Dan Sanchez. My friends call me Danchez. And today I want to give you some inspiration on how to use AI to fix everyday problems that you're running into. This show is dedicated to learning AI and mastering AI. It's what I'm here to do for 2024, and we are well on our way. And I wanted to show you just a bunch of little ways to give you inspiration how to incorporate AI into like your average daily life problems by showing you how I've done it with some of mine. I find that I learn a ton by essentially trying to use AI to fix every problem I could think of, whether it's actually a good idea or not, just to essentially to get the learnings of see how far it could go. Because if you can see where AI fails and where it succeeds and all the nuances of in between those two things, you start to actually figure out what it's capable of so that when you have other like real problems, business problems maybe that you want to solve, you kind of know what it's capable of. So I'm constantly pulling out my phone and asking it questions, testing it, pushing the envelope to see where the limitations are, to see what it's fully capable of doing in order to better understand where AI is and where it's going. So today I brought forward 10 different ChatGPT conversations that I've had with AI, some with custom GPTs that I've made, some with just plain fresh ChatGPT 4.0 that I'm using, and you can use these with other AI models too. So I'm going to be walking through it visually, though I'll be talking about it if you're just listening in your car or if you're on a run or something. But since this is a video podcast, you can watch it on Apple Podcasts. Just pull open the full episode and you'll see the video playing there if you want to watch while you're cooking or something. Or go over to YouTube or AI-drivenmarketer.com. You can watch the video in all those three places. But for now, let's dive in to see how I've used it in order to get some inspiration to see how you might be able to use it in your life. So the first one I have here is I just had a general question. Instead of going to Google, I went to ChatGPT, as I find that ChatGPT gives me pretty good answers on this. And I just asked what are some of the practical uses of 3D printing? Because I have a neighbor that got a 3D printer and they were printing some little like toys and things that my kids have been playing with. And I'm like, I've always kind of been interested in tech, hence the AI podcast. I'm like, how could I possibly justify buying a 3D printer? Tell me about this. So I had a little conversation, and at first it gave me a pass over like a pretty broad spectrum of 3D printing use cases, and I told it to narrow the results, just like you do at Google. You do a general pass, and then you can narrow the results because now you know a little bit more specifically. And I wanted to look for stuff that I could do within my garage, and it kind of gave me some ideas of what I could consider, what I could make, and setup, maintenance. And then I think I actually stopped there because it gave me a bunch of different ideas, and it kind of gave me the idea that I didn't know. So essentially I'm replacing Google search with ChatGPT in order to learn on a very niche topic of 3D printing. And this is something that I just did on my phone on the couch as my kids were talking about the 3D printer with their friends to see if there was some use case that was actually useful for me. And I found that there kind of is not. I'm in this digital space with AI and stuff, and I don't really have a lot of use cases to get into 3D printing myself. But it was nice to just have a conversation with ChatGPT to give me an overview, and I found what I got back, I think, was faster than what I would have gotten if I had just gone directly to Google. Perplexity probably would have been as well, and when SearchGPT comes out, that probably would have worked as well too, to be able to pull stuff from the internet and then interact with it here. But in this case, I knew ChatGPT could give me a broad understanding of what I needed to learn about 3D printing in that very moment. So let's move to the next one. This next one is one of my most frequent use cases for ChatGPT, and it's for a custom GPT I developed called My Showrunner. You can actually go to myshowrunner.com to get the instructions, paste them into your own custom GPT, and just use it. Or if you have a free account, you can even find a link to be able to use a pre-built custom GPT for My Showrunner if you want to use this yourself. But it's something that I use all the time, pretty much for every podcast episode, for guests for sure, but even for solo episodes like this one, I'm working with AI in the pre-production to outline the episode ahead of time. So this one was for a recent guest I had, which is coming out a little after this show. So you're getting a little sneak peek here. I interviewed Lisa Adams. She's a fractional CMO that I think is crushing it with AI, and I can't wait to release her episode. But this one's pretty smooth. It's essentially pre-programmed to ask me a certain set of questions, and we go through the same process every time. But it's really good at offering ideas at different stages. I told it we want to do a guest. I copied and pasted Lisa's profile. And then it said, great, this is a quick summary about your guest. What do you want to interview them about? And I said, I want to talk about AI, using AI to fix bottlenecks in your businesses, because that's something she posts a lot about on LinkedIn. It goes back and offers me 5 different angles I can take around this topic based on her experience, based on what it knows about my show. I pick one. See, I just give it a number 1. It's easy. And it's like, perfect. Here's, based on that angle and their experience in your show, here's 10 different titles. And of course, I think I picked one and then probably tweaked it a little bit and said, put it in there. I even asked it a question, is this grammatically correct? It said, yes, it's grammatically correct. So it's funny because you can create this very specific path for a ChatGPT to go down, but even deviate a little bit and throw some curveballs in there, like asking it to evaluate my title's grammar. So we moved forward with that. It created the episode outline, the questions. It even wrote the email that I sent to Lisa afterwards. After that, I wait until after the episode's done. I paste in the transcript, and it does the work of creating the show notes, which is just a brief overview, timestamps, and then even generating journey prompts for this episode. Now that it knows the title, now that it knows the content and has the overview of it, it creates the mid-journey prompts that I then use. I creates 5 prompts for me. I use all 5 and then pick the winner and change it a little bit in Photoshop in order to make the cover art for this episode. And that's one of my favorite uses for AI, is just speeding up the pre-production and even in this case, post-production process on podcasting, because there's so many little steps that AI is fantastic at. If you could just break down your process for it. And I think every business, anybody in marketing, but even in business, has processes that they run to. Every time they get this, after this meeting, they always go through this process. Every time they line up this project, they have the launch process. Every time they're doing a post-mortem on a project, they have to do this process. If you can outline your process, chances are AI can automate quite a few steps of it. So think about how you can do it, because I did it for AI podcast production here, but you can do more yourself. So think about how you can build that into a custom GPT. And if you need to learn more about custom GPTs, just go to aidrivenmarketer.com and just search custom GPTs, and all the episodes around that will come up, and we'll kind of walk you through how to set those up and build them. So let's go to the next one. The next option I had with ChatGPT here was around troubleshooting a problem that I was running into in Adobe Illustrator. I was doing some design work for a client and accidentally hit a quick key of some kind that changed the whole layout. And I was like, oh no, what did I push? And I didn't even know what to call it. So I just explained the problem to AI. It gave me some ideas, great ideas. They didn't work. So then I went back and forth with it. I said, hey, it's not this, it's more this. And it gave me some more ideas. I tried it, said it didn't work. And finally, I took a screenshot of my screen. I'm like, this is what I'm seeing. How do I make this white screen? If you're looking along with me, I have a screenshot of Illustrator here. Essentially, if you're in design, like the background or outside the artboards are where you're designing, or dark gray, so you could focus on the thing, and that had turned off and become all white, which is a pain. Probably looks more like Figma now, which I don't like. And then finally, it's like, based on your screenshot of my problem, it actually correctly identified it and got me to the part where I could fix it. Actually, I went through one other clarification and then finally got to the point where I could fix it, because now that it better understood what was going on, it actually went and did a search and found the answer in a community forum from Adobe, and found the exact quick key that I needed to press in order to turn it back, because I didn't know what I had pressed. And I tell you, working through problems like this can take a long time. If you're just doing Google searches and you're searching through forums, you're not finding the answer, you're not even sure what you're looking for, because you can't even really properly define the problem. But having a conversation with AI to troubleshoot technical problems is actually really nice, and especially considering you can take screenshots of the problem if you have something to show it. It's really great at helping you identify the problem, narrowing down the issues, and giving you step-by-step instructions, just like a tech would if they were on the phone with you, working through the issue with you. So if you ever have a tech problem, try throwing it to AI. It can help. This fourth use case I have is one of my personal favorites. It's my personal life. I homeschool my kids. My wife takes reading and writing, and I take on science and Bible teaching. But I made a custom GPT to help me with the history and the science, because I have them write journal entries after each history and science lesson. But a bottleneck became me grading it and giving them feedback, but they needed it. So I created this custom GPT where I can take a picture of their writing. You can see I have not a screenshot, a photo I took with my iPhone, and just uploaded it to the custom GPT and added their name, and it goes and runs through and creates a rubric that I actually co-created with AI. It runs through the rubric and grades it. So this one's for Noah's, I think, and gave it a score 7 out of 10, and gave it a 3 out of 5 on understanding, a 2 out of 3 on organization, and 2 out of 2 out of on proper like grammar and mechanics. And it gives really good feedback on how to improve it. Amazingly, it can read like my son's handwriting, which isn't bad for 5th grade. But I was impressed that I could actually read it. Even in this poorly lit photo, it could read it. And even if it can't quite read the word, it knows what he's trying to say, which is amazing. So it speeds up my whole homeschooling process. But just think about that. You can upload pictures of writing from elementary schoolers and it can read it. It is very intelligent. And I just goes to show you, this isn't a practical marketing application, but it shows you like the breadth of what it's actually capable of doing, because there might be performance evaluations that you can do in your department. Some of it you just need to take pictures of and give it evaluation. Shoot, you have past design projects that maybe you need to take a picture of a brochure and have it evaluate the design of the brochure because you can't take a screenshot of the digital one for whatever reason. You don't have access to the art. But you can interact through ChatGPT in a photo. And soon, very soon, it'll be a video way where you can actually have it record your screen while you're doing something. But for now, you can take photos with your iPhone and have it evaluate what you're actually seeing. I have one more illustration of using photos coming up. In this 5th example, it's fun because everybody kind of knows that like ChatGPT and AI kind of struggles with math. That's not true. It's actually very good at math. What it struggles with is counting. I know, it seems like, how could you be good at math and algebraic expressions and be bad at counting? Well, I don't really understand the nuances of why it is, but I promise it's actually pretty good at math, but bad at counting simple things, like counting the amount of R's in strawberries, a famous thing that it just struggles with for some reason. It won't in the future, but for now, it struggles with simple counting, but is actually pretty good at arithmetic. In this case, some friends and I were discussing how many dollars you would earn in 365 days if you put $1 in a jar for the amount for the day. So if you counted all the days in a year by 1 all the way to 365 and you added $1 each day, so $1 day 1, $2 day 2, $3 day 3, how much money would you end up with at the end of 365? So I asked ChatGPT to come up with the calculation, and it's funny because I was going to ChatGPT. Everybody else was going to calculators and Google to try to figure out the math behind it. But ChatGPT, we checked it, did get it right, and it worked through all the logic of it to come up with the algebraic expression to calculate it, and it was right. And if you're wondering, if you can't see it on my screen because you're listening, it's $66,795 if you did that. But I thought it was kind of a fun example just to show you that it actually is good at math if you can give it a word problem of a kind. So it's great at word problems because it's good at algebra. What it's not good at is counting simple things, especially counting like the amount of characters in a sentence or different things like that. Basic math, it's bad at. Math, it's actually pretty good at, like, or I say intermediate math, because algebra it's not doing, as far as I know, I haven't seen anybody use it to solve calculus type problems, but maybe it can. But it is good at solving algebra. So your everyday word problems, it's actually pretty good. Check it out sometime. For this 6th one, I wanted to show one that you could probably experience as a marketer all the time, but coming up with subdomains. I needed to come up with more landing page options for domain names using a subdomain. I was like, what are the most common subdomains used with domain names, so I can have some more options in my marketing automation platform, high level, to choose from when I'm making it so I don't have to think about it later. And it gave me a whole list of possible ones to choose from, and I picked out some of them that I'm going to be using for my own to myself later on. But things like blog.companyname.com, shop.companyname.com, store.companyname.com, support.companyname.com. Like I just wanted a list like this, and then I have it evaluated a little bit more. I'm like, okay, give me like domain hacky ones, like Delicious, if you remember Delicious, old school social media that Yahoo eventually bought and sold, but long story. But like about.me, enter.net, examp.ul, like domain hacking. And he gave me a bunch of examples of it, and I kind of found what I need between the two lists. But there's all kinds of needs or experimentations or things where I just need lists of ideas that are very specific. And if you give it enough detail in the prompt, and this one I didn't even need a lot of details, literally just one sentence prompt, and I got what I needed. So I'm using it all the time to come up with ideas. This would have been one that Google would have probably failed on. Maybe there's someone who wrote a blog on this, but come on, like coming up with ideas around subdomains, probably not. In this seventh example, I have another homeschooling one. Like I said before, I had ChatGPT come up with a rubric, and I was actually trying to figure out and work with ChatGPT to figure out not only how to have a rubric, but how to grade a class. I'm still a new homeschooler, about 2 years in, but I was kind of knew what I was looking for. I know like teachers use weighted grading systems, and I was having it run math for me in order to figure out how to even like do a weighted grading system for my kids, since we're starting to get old enough to have grades, calculate it all, so I can actually have some documented progress shown for my kids. But it's funny, you can actually approach GPT not quite knowing what you want and just have a conversation with it in order to figure out something fairly, I don't know, I'd say fairly sophisticated. I'm not having it write content. I'm not having it just spit out things. We're actually having a dynamic conversation around how to create a grading system that's going to work for the stuff that I'm using. It's so nice because oftentimes you can Google search and find generic answers, but what if you have nuances that are different for you? Well, AI can take those in mind and then change the content for what you're looking for. Again, this is vanilla ChatGPT that I'm figuring this out with, and I actually arrived at a suitable solution based on what ChatGPT gave me that I'm now using for my kids' grading. You can think about all kinds of implications this has for marketing as you're trying to figure out like, yeah, I need to come up with a marketing plan, but our company has this one limitation and this one strength to maximize. How then can I go about for this specific little campaign that we need to create? ChatGPT's ability to again customize best practices for your company based on the few pieces of context that you give it are phenomenal. So use it to solve niche little problems that only it can help you solve, because Google will never be able to help you find the answer for it. In my eighth example, this is a short and sweet one. I had an email that I needed to turn into code, but all I had was the image of it. All I had was the screenshot of the content. And I'm like, not only do I need this typed out, but I need it like pre-written in HTML so that I can use it as a template for something else. I won't go into details of like what it was and why I needed it, but you could just take a screenshot of something like this and be like, hey, like put this into text and then rewrite it based on the style that you're seeing in the screenshot and turn it back into HTML. And it crushed it. First try, it gave me the HTML that I needed to reduplicate this email so that I could then use it in a different campaign as a template for future emails. I love being able to just quickly do it. Otherwise, like I would have had to have typed it all back out again and rewritten the HTML myself. I'm like, ChatGPT, can you just do this real quick? Yes, sir. It can really fast. In this ninth example, I was troubleshooting just another technical problem. Like how does one share a Wi-Fi with address iPhone with another friend's iPhone? And it gave me exactly what I needed to know in 8 steps. Simple, sweet, got it on the first try. Didn't even have to clarify afterwards. It was nice. And on this last one, again, I was going to talk about another use case of just being able to take a picture and have it give the results. It's smart enough that I didn't know what chord my daughter, who's learning guitar, is like, what chord is this? And honestly, I knew how to use the chord, but I don't know a lot about guitar, but I couldn't remember the name of it. So I literally just took a picture of her hand in the right position. And it says, in this image, the chord appears to be a G major, which is like the most common chord in guitar history. I didn't know what the name is, though. I could have Googled it, but I would have had to look through all the chord charts and kind of found it. But one quick picture got us the right chord so that we understood what the name was. Again, I think people underutilize the photo feature and its ability to understand the context of what you're looking for based on the photo. I'm still amazed that you could just take a photo of a hand in a chord position. It's like, hey, that's the G chord. It's just so smart at being able to figure that stuff out. Again, marketing applications, you're wandering around all the time. And I'm a very curious marketer. I can see, I have examples like this back in the past, but even taking pictures of things that I'm seeing in store, like, hey, why do marketers do it this way? Why do marketers have this? And just taking pictures of things and asking questions in order to learn and grow in my own profession. You could be doing the same thing and taking pictures and having a dialogue with it with ChatGPT, because it's almost like this expert that you have in your pocket all the time. You could ask it things, have conversations, customize it, and get what you need to know faster. So those are the 10 things that I've done with ChatGPT over the last 6 weeks or so. I just kind of pulled up a couple of different varying interesting ones. Of course, I'm using it to answer questions like that could be done on Google, but again, I'm trying to push the limits, and I pulled out a bunch of ones that were successful and that worked pretty well. Always be learning by doing experimenting as much as possible. Not just listening to podcasts like this, but actually interacting with AI. This is where the real learning comes. You can get inspiration from podcasts and blog posts and prompt guides and all that different stuff. But the real learning comes from rolling up your sleeves, trying a bunch of different prompts, even refining your prompts, and getting the firsthand knowledge by working hand in hand with it yourself. Thank you so much for listening to the AI Driven Marketer. If this show was any good, please give it a 5-star or whatever star rating you think it deserves on the podcast app that you're listening to, and tap that thumbs up button on YouTube. And if you want to dive deeper into AI and you're still not sure if you've mastered the fundamentals, go to my free AI course at aidrivenmarketer.com and take a look. Learn the fundamentals, and you will never have to look for a prompt cheat sheet again. 5-video series, and you'll even find that I've customized the course so it's hyper personalized for you, your role, and the people you're marketing to. Take a look at it, and let's get started so we can do more with AI today.